Hey, it's Dan Melnick. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Zing, and I'm proud to be a sponsor of this podcast. So please check us out today as we can help fuel your business growth. myzing.io. Thank you.
Yeah, hi Nicholas.
Hi, Sai, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing fantastic.
Firstly, thank you very much for giving me opportunity to interview you for my YouTube channel and podcast and for my channels.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is really, really cool. I wasn't expecting that, to be reached out like this, but it's actually what makes the whole purpose of what you're doing really, really, really cool. You're reaching out, I don't know if I'm going to get an answer, but I'm reaching out, and eventually if people have the right mindset, they will answer and participate in what we're doing today, to share their experience, their knowledge. This is a fantastic idea. People should do this more often, have the guts to do things like this.
And it's an honor for me for you to have on my show. So before talking more about you, can you please introduce yourself to my audience?
Sure, no problem. So my name is Nicolas David. I'm a senior startup solutions architect at AWS. I'm based in the Kingdom of Bahrain, and I've been with AWS for the past close to 10 years now. Started as a technical trainer based in Luxembourg, then moved to France, then moved to Bahrain about 6 years ago, something like this.
So you're from Bahrain.
I'm based in Bahrain, but I'm originally from France. You may hear it in the accent sometimes.
Yeah. So right now you work in which country?
In Bahrain.
In Bahrain. So you went France and you worked in Luxembourg and now you're back to Bahrain.
Yes, sir.
So what's your background actually? How your technology, entrance happened?
That's an interesting question. I was never really great in school. I was okay, maybe below okay, but never, doing good. And at some point in time in my life, I had the opportunity to move to the US and start to, go to university there and learn a little bit about networking, a little bit about web development, easy degrees, so to speak. And eventually got a degree, right? Got a bachelor's degree, an associate's degree, sorry. That's a 2-year degree in the US, and started to work in IT. I was doing web development, but on the side to learn everything that there is to know about security, networking, maybe some virtualization. I was fiddling with an operating system called OpenBSD, that still is called OpenBSD, and working on Intel platforms and RISC platform for the Spark Station in particular. And by doing both of them, I started to level up on my system administration and systems knowledge, operating systems knowledge, which led me to pass my second associate's degree, which was in everything that's around infrastructure, everything that's around network. And then I moved back to France. When I moved back to France, I had a strong level of English, which is not necessarily the forte of French people. And I joined a tech company called 3DS. That was my first experience in France, and moved on to banking, to software editing businesses, and also healthcare. And eventually, one day when I was out with my wife and son in Algeria, I got a call from this UK number in the middle of the desert, right? And I thought, okay, let's pick this up. This was a young lady from the UK who was wanting to know if I knew anything about Amazon. And I said, well, yeah, you guys ship boxes all over the world. She said, no, we're talking about AWS, the cloud division of Amazon. And I knew maybe this much about S3, this much about EC2. And this job was for a role of technical trainer. So, obviously I said, yes, I love challenges. And as soon as I moved back from vacation back to France, I passed, the loop of interviews, then the on-site loop of interviews, and made it to AWS. Started in November 2014, and I remember this day. It's the 3rd of November because the next day we announced Lambda. So that's when everything started to take more and more room into my career in terms of using my experience in traditional IT and data center and applications, and confronting all of that to all of the cloud stuff, right? And many of the customers that I was training were having this internal fight. Should I keep my data center? Should I move to the cloud? But if I move to the cloud, is my application going to be movable? Or do I have to do some work? Am I going to keep my job? All of these questions were super interesting questions that leveraged both my sort of developer experience, my system administration and network experience, and my new, I would say, arrow in my quiver, which is cloud, right? And so after, I think, 3 years of doing that, I thought I need to move to something else. And this is where I had the opportunity to move to Bahrain to, start to help building the team, the professional services team, which I joined, to move the Bahraini government to the cloud. Today, I think we're close to 85 or 90% of the Bahraini government that's running in the cloud efficiently in the Bahrain region. And after successfully participating in all of that, I decided to move on to a new challenge, which is the startup team. So helping startups scale and accelerate in Middle East.
So I can see you have done a lot of development stuff in your life, starting from web development to a lot of application development related stuff. So now you are a senior solutions architect. So working now with the direct business leaders and trying to understand their architecture and trying to give solutions for that. So how is this, on seeing technology from both sides and development and also understanding from business people perspective?
So it's an interesting switch, right? Especially when you go from, working with government, which is public sector, moving on to commercial sector and startups. First of all, the pace of innovation is different. The startups are in the morning, they want to do things on EC2, then moving on to maybe Lambda, and a couple of hours later, maybe containers, and eventually saying, oh, no, we just, we want to do this over step functions. Throughout the course of a day, you're going to have a lot of conversations into what's the best way from the customer perspective to accomplish something from an application side, from a performance side. Mostly these days, it's going to be cost perspective. The economical situation is asking a lot more from startups. And so it shifts the conversation into cost optimization and trade-offs, right? Performance, cost, all of these things. And so what I think is really interesting is that initially when I wanted to build something, when I wanted to build some sort of a proof of concept for a project, it took me a bit of time because I had to get my code ready. I had to get my infrastructure ready. I had to think about how everything would be interacting all together. And well, now it's just APIs, right? Think about it. I talked earlier about Lambda being launched the next day after I joined. Lambda just transformed everything. When you think about building something as simple as I want to have, whenever I receive an email, I want Lambda to catch all of the calendar invitation and do something with it. It's super easy. You can do it in maybe a couple of hours and you have a prototype running. So that, for me, changed a lot of things. It switched the conversations to, instead of how are we going to do it, is, when are we going to do it? And what's the scope of what we're achieving, so that we can do more? Because, again, a couple of hours, you get a Lambda function running, you get everything production grade ready almost. It's all about tweaking the performance, tweaking some of the choices of libraries eventually. and maybe some of the service choices that you're using throughout your workflow. But yeah, the conversation was changed drastically with the coming of Lambda. And now with everything Gen AI, it's shifted again, right? If you were thinking about building a chatbot, I mean, let's say 2-3 years ago, everything would have been done one way. But now with the coming of Gen AI being so popular, so easy to access, and so cost efficient nowadays in many use cases, then I think we're entering like a new era of doing things. It's very, very interesting. It's also very tiring because you have to go through, when I started, AWS was a stack of 40 something services, 43, I think. Nowadays it's 200 plus. You have to be a Swiss Army knife whenever you discuss with your customers about, ways of doing what they want to achieve. It's not the same conversation as well. Yeah, it's just super interesting, to say the least.
So 10 years is a very long time that you spent on AWS and explored different services, and now from 47 to 200. And talking with your customer, knowing what exactly suits for their requirement, for their business requirement. So how do you define this change that happened in this 10 years in AWS?
First of all, I think the pace of innovation is just mind-blowing, right? Again, 40 something services to 200 plus today, following up with the infrastructure that grew as well. We had, I don't want to say a handful of regions, but close to a handful of regions. Today, we're reaching very, very large numbers. We have edge locations that are over the hundreds. We also have local zones. We have plenty of new things that didn't exist at the time. So the notion of compute completely changed. At first, it was compute in the region, then it became compute at the edge. Think about use cases like IoT or machine learning, or also regulation, like how personal information is treated. These things definitely evolved quite a lot in the past 10 years. Inside of Amazon, I think a lot of the things are still a vast majority of the things are still done the same. This customer obsession, the perspective of the customer in how we design our services and why we design our services, why we create new services, is extremely strong. Plenty of times when a new service is announced, if I don't know the service, I could potentially guess how, let's say, 80 to 90% of the service is going to work for me as a customer. How am I going to be able to use it? Because it's the same or a similar philosophy, which is great because you have the same way of working across the stack. But yeah, a lot of things have changed. A lot of the requirements from the customers are not the same. If I look at the way startups work, for example, I'm sure 10 years ago it was completely different than today. Now, if you want to do compute, back to what I was saying earlier, you have a plethora of choices that are all adapted to what you want to do, but maybe some of them are more specialized in what you want to achieve, and some of them are more cost optimized, some of them are more performance oriented, some of them compliance oriented. It just depends on what your business line is, but that's the beauty of it, right? If you or me or anyone is using AWS, they're using the same platform, the same services as Netflix would do, or any other large customer that AWS is having. So I think this is what, for me, kept me on board for such a long amount of time. The passion, of course, but the way things are done is definitely something that keeps you going.
What do you think that is working for AWS to be global and serve for humanity with all these services? So how AWS is thinking in this 10 years that you have seen from 40 services to 200, how they are expanding their and breaking their boundaries.
Again, being customer focused is the reason that 95+% of the services are coming to be inside of AWS. And so, yeah, I think that's what has made us so successful, is that we keep that in the center of our discussions. We want to make sure that whatever we're doing is in the interest of the customer. And even to simplify, my role as a senior solutions architect for startups, my role is to have our customers do the most with the least amount of money, right? If I can achieve that in a day, then my customer is going to be able to focus on something else that may require some funds and do what they do best, right? Instead of thinking about everything that's around cost optimization or performance optimization, or anything else that's around the well-architected framework, for example. Again, they are able to do more with less these days, and working with a solution architect is also something that has brought them a lot of freedom. One of my customers' quotes for, I think last year, was around how he felt as a CTO that I was embedded in his team. He can ask me anything that he would ask his team, and I would be able to help them remove this blocker to move on and realize value quicker, faster. So I think that's like the core of what we're doing that makes us more successful, as you mentioned. Are you around? I can only see myself. Oh, yeah, I think you dropped.
Yeah, we got connected.
Hey, no problem. Welcome back.
Yeah, so there was a network issue. So apart from this, how was your experience with Jeff? Jeff was the Vice President and Chief Evangelist of AWS.
I think I met Jeff once. The last time I went to reInvent, which was a while back. But yeah, Jeff is just an overall awesome guy. He's really approachable. He's really passionate about what he does. And he knows about, so many use cases and so many customers use cases that it's really awesome to talk to him. And the same goes for Werner, for example. Many people think, oh, Werner is like the CTO of Amazon. He's not someone approachable. He's really super, super friendly, super approachable. Really, really, really interesting guy to talk to. I think the one time I met Werner, I was still a technical trainer, so this was a long time ago. But the last day of reInvent, there's this after party where all the customers and everyone goes just to wind off and spend an evening together around something different than just work. There's a lot of music, lots of foods, lots of games, and while walking there, I was looking at the other side of the street and I saw Werner walking. He was on his own, right? And everybody kept taking pictures, like, oh, look, it's Werner. It's like, you know what? Just like you, I'll just go over there and introduce myself. And I did. And we walked the entire way from the venue to the replay party, just talking about customers and the experience as a technical trainer, his perspective on things, just really wholesome discussion that we had together. So this is one of the things also that's really interesting about AWS, is that you can talk to anyone and everyone. If they have time, they will gladly give you their time, just to give you their opinion on something, or to help you grow in your role, or maybe facilitate something that you have in mind. And that's where my experience, my professional experience started to change completely 10 years ago, really. So I'm extremely grateful for that. I don't think that it's good if I want to go to any other company because I've been clearly spoiled by this, awesome work environment. But yeah, it just sets the bar in a completely different fashion, right?
So from technical trainer to senior solutions architect, so how do you define yourself?
I think it's more of an overall technologist, right? And I mean, it's not just 10 years on the technology side. I turned 40 a couple of years ago, right? So it's also myself seeing technology differently. I have 3 kids, and one of them is 13, the other ones are both 6 years old. And their relationship to phones, to computers, to TV, or even new technologies like Gen AI, right? Or new up and trending, or even more trending these days, technologies is completely different. I introduced my son the other day to Party Rock, and his mind was blown. He could ask it anything, and he would build the application for him. And I think he built something to better his resume for his first internship, and he couldn't get enough of it. He thought, this is how super easy. How are you spending, hours working on things and explaining this to customers, where just logging on this web page, explaining what you want to do in plain English, and within minutes you get this full blown application. You should learn more about this. And I thought this was very interesting of a reaction. So I think across the past 10 years, technology has changed a lot. But also people's relationship to technology has changed a lot. We have these smartphones that keep on becoming better and better. And for me, I think the key to keep on with being on top of things is just to learn and be curious, right? Learning about new things, listening to customers, keeping that being certified habit on a regular basis. Before it used to be every 2 years, now it's every 3 years. But there's plenty of things to specialize on and to sharpen your tools on. And so, yeah, I think learning and be curious, that this leadership principle that we practice a lot at AWS and at Amazon at large, is something that definitely will keep you relevant across 10 years.
So how do you solve business problems?
Oof, that's how much time do you have? It's a tough question, but again, just like what I was saying earlier, when this customer of mine, referred to me as someone that's embedded in their team, I think that's one of the keys, right? Being an active listener, trying to understand the problem, the pain point, understanding where the customer wants to go and what's the journey, what the journey should look like. I really like to leverage the processes and the way that we do things at Amazon, so that we look at the end goal and we turn around and we say, okay, this is where we should be. This is where we are right now. What sort of initiatives, what sort of things should we do to get to this point? What are the key important milestones for our project? And this is where working backwards is super efficient. So again, being an active listener is super important. We have 2 of these and only 1 of this, so we should be more listening than talking. And also, thinking about what matters most for the customer and asking questions. And we have plenty of time to ask questions to make sure that we are solving the business problem in the best of ways. Is definitely a plus to solve business problems in an efficient way. I cannot hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah, so you worked on most of your career, you worked on how different applications work and the mechanism of the applications. So
Yeah.
trying to understand the business side of the technology and trying to directly interact with the business leaders and trying to match the technology services and products that you have with the businesses. and their requirements. So how different that is for you, and how comfortable you are doing that, and what is challenging in doing this?
So I think again, learning and being curious. So keep on learning on a regular basis is important. Out of the regular 8 hours that would compose my day of work, I try to keep at least 1 hour to focus on things, reading about customer stories, learning about a new service or a new feature, and eventually, testing things out. A lot of things that I do are usually end up in a Python script or, in me exploring through the CLI. How does it work? How can it benefit my customers? So I think doing a lot of that is super important. Then across startups, there's such a broad way of doing things and a broad set of verticals that it's extremely diverse, right? You don't have only one topic that you get over and over and over. That makes the whole thing super interesting as well and super relevant with all the steps that I mentioned before. And then I would say, as much as I mentioned talking to Werner earlier or talking to Jeff and asking questions, maybe to pretty much anyone and everyone in Amazon, not being afraid to ask questions or escalate when needed is something that usually has helped me perform in those areas. And so, it could be anything. It could be, the service should work this way, but it doesn't. Let's see how we can fix this and how we can talk to the service team about this with supporting data. Or my customer is wanting to have this feature and it's already the limits of your feature that you have released at reInvent. How do we work on this? There's plenty of ways to make sure that you reach that goal for the customer and that you help the customer realize value. And again, the mechanisms internally are endless, right? You have, again, talking to your peers is definitely a great way of dealing with this, but also learning about things, maybe escalating when needed, or looking at other customer use cases most of the time is extremely interesting in the sense that sometimes, if not most of the time, you will find commonalities between what this other customer has done and what your customer wants to do, especially when it's in a domain that is very popular. I can see you dropped again.
Yeah, sorry.
No problem. Hello again.
Yeah. So Jeff said he's customer obsessed, and he's very much into how different businesses work and how to solve problems with the technology services that they have. Today, I asked him what is the reason why AWS reached everywhere on this planet, and small countries who are not technology, well in technology are using AWS services. Data centers are everywhere. So as a solutions architect, as a person who directly interact with businesses, what do you observe, and what is the change that happened and that is making businesses to adopt to cloud and cloud services and use this?
I think for me, there's a couple of things. Surely there is more, but the most popular things that I've seen so far are, number one, the services, the level of abstraction of certain services, particularly, let's say, for machine learning, have become so easy in terms of time to ramp up to get to the point where you can actually use the service, that it's just a no-brainer, right? It's easy to do. I can do it myself. I can challenge myself to learn something new and do it. And if I'm in the domain, if I'm in IT already, it's maybe the learning curve is this much. So, why not do it, right? And then the second thing is cost as well. Some of the things that I've seen in, running your own website or running your own application have become so much cheaper. Not in a sense of quality of service, but in the money economic sense of the topic. And so I think the ease of use and the costs is definitely a huge driver. Definitely a huge driver. We've also seen a lot of compliance requirements that have been satisfied. For example, we recently launched a region in the UAE. Many of my customers that are UAE based were waiting for this to store PII on AWS and abide by regulations for, let's say, the central bank, right? And now that the region is there, customers are just, loving this because it's costing them less to run this on AWS, and they can do a whole lot more. Think about that 200 plus number of services that I mentioned earlier. I don't think we're to that point yet in the UAE region, but they can do this, that they have this sense of high availability, more than a sense, it's actually high availability across a minimum of 3 AZs in a region makes, you sleep at night better, right? You have this sense of ease of use, cost optimization, security, and performance and reliability that is, I would say, unmatched anywhere else. So for those reasons, I think this is where AWS has become so much popular these days. I've seen a clear increase of popularity in the past 10 years. When we did an event called Awesome Days, when I was a technical trainer, so some 9 odd years ago, maybe 10 years ago, a lot of people, when you were asking, does anybody know what AWS is? You would see a few hands raised. Nowadays, it's almost the entirety of the attendance that is raising their hands. So it has become popular. It has become widely used. And for all of the reasons that I mentioned before, it's now a no-brainer between doing this in your home server or doing this in the cloud. The investment is this much because you pay for what you consume, and that makes it super flexible for you.
What are your qualities that made you to be where you are today?
What? I'm sorry, what?
What are those qualities that made you to be in the place where you are today? What are those qualities that made you to become like this, have a personality like this, and solve problems in this particular way?
I think the number one thing is to be customer obsessed, really. When your customer is saying, I have this problem, I have this pain point, how do I fix this, right? How do I save on all the money that I'm spending on fixing this by hand or by using proprietary software? That obsession definitely made a lot of, I would say, huge strides in gaining customer trust and working together hand in hand to solve major issues. And for many of the customers that I've been working with, it's been just the beginning of the journey, right? When you have that discussion with the customer and you say, well, you could do it this way, and just off of the top of my head, it would be maybe a couple of dollars a month to fix this. This is when the customer has this aha moment, right? Oh, wow, really? You can do this? And then you switch on to the next stage, is to show them, maybe with a CLI, maybe a few lines of Python, or maybe just in the web console, how to do things. And then, that's the beginning of this journey of migration to the cloud or optimization or even innovation in many cases, where I can give you an example. When I was in professional services in Bahrain, the last 2 years where I was doing this, I was running a program with my colleague Nidal called CIC, CIC, for Cloud Innovation Centers. There's 2 in Bahrain, one in University of Bahrain and one in Bahrain Polytechnic. And we basically run challenges at the end of the studies, right? The last year of studies with the students, so that 1, it can help them with their thesis, and 2, it can help them familiarize with cloud services. And it's sort of a, solving pressing public sector challenge where over the course of 6 months, the students goes from, I heard of this cloud thing, to I can build stuff in the cloud really easily. And one of the challenges was during COVID, where it was very difficult to go to government offices to get one document that's called a proof of address certificate. Banks would need it, insurance would need it, things like that. Maybe your employer would need it. And so if you were to do it by hand, manually, the old-fashioned way, you would go to this government office, get a ticket, give the agent all of your documents, and within 3 to 5 days, you would get everything back. You'd have to make a payment, and everything would be sold for you. You'd have this beautiful document that you could give your bank or your insurance. Well, during COVID, that wasn't possible. So the students had the idea to build a chatbot with 3 steps that were machine learning driven, in the sense that they were verifying official documents. So they had key points of verifying something called a CPR here, which is like an identity card, I would say, in Bahrain. Then the second thing would be to read the lease document that would say you live at this address and this is your contract for so many months or so many years. And last but not least, there was a payment step. They went from an experience that would be on average 3 to 5 days to a little bit over 2.5 minutes for the whole process through chatbot interactions. And so this is the kind of things that when you present this to a company, or in this case, a government entity, they just go nuts because, first of all, Bahraini students built this, right? They've understood how to leverage machine learning to verify key documents and read them and make sure that there's no misunderstanding about the validity of an ID document or a lease document. They processed the payment. At the time it was a fake payment, but they processed the payment. And they did this in such a short amount of time. Let's do this, right? Let's build this. Let's digitize this process for us, and let's do this for many other services that would be in a similar fashion, time-consuming, money-consuming projects. And so the people that were involved in this project as students, when they graduated, from the group of 5, 3 of them got hired immediately to bring this project to life in production. This is the kind of discussions that, I really, really love, because we go from a problem to a solution to value, right? Economic value, business value in a few weeks or month. The graduation process was in the middle, but still, I think this is pretty amazing. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about doing what I'm doing today, is because, it's that easy. You go from, a problem to a solution in a very short amount of time for a small amount of money. Forgot to mention that the whole solution per month, minus the processing of payments, was costing less than $100, right? So, and that's, to me, something that in traditional IT would have been taking a lot of time, maybe more resources, maybe more money. So all in all, it's a win-win situation for everyone. And the fact that it's so fast to build things, at least a POC, makes it even more compelling for customers.
So how is AWS in Bahrain?
What do you mean?
How fast are they? Generally, the humans there in adopting to technology. I
It
hear
depends.
that when I interviewed one of the person from Bahrain, he said after COVID, people are more into technology and using software tools and software things more than what it should be before COVID?
I mean, in Bahrain in particular, yes. After COVID, you've seen a lot of things change, definitely. First of all, the remote work, like what I'm doing right now, I'm in the comfort of my kitchen. But remote work changed a lot of things, right? We've seen the size of the internet connections grow. I was at 100 meg, and from one day to the other, no change in price, went to 500 megs. Fantastic. I love it, right? But I think everyone did the same. So, that kind of was one of the major changes that happened here that helped drive a lot more of the, working from home, software solutions were built for people that work from home situation. Again, the example of the chatbot that I mentioned is definitely one of the adoptions that happened during COVID, but yielded results when COVID was over. So that happened. And then, of course, yes, after COVID, a lot of things accelerated. We're starting to see a lot more of customers' appetite beyond the migration stage, which is reinvention and innovation. And I think this is really cool because, again, migration is fun, right? Okay, you get from point A to point B, you save on money, you have instead of having one data center, you're now spread across 3 availability zones. So, overall it's good. But then when you start reinventing, when you start innovating and proposing new services, like again, chatbot interactions is one example. But let's look maybe at smart cities, right? IoT connected devices, open data. All of these things, if you think about it, have become more and more popular after COVID because people realize that, it is very needed. And so I think this is typically some of the use cases that we're seeing here in the Middle East, specifically in Bahrain, that are really going in that grain of accelerating, as you mentioned earlier, rather than, we'll wait till next month type situation. But then, public sector and commercial sector are 2 different things, even though we're seeing a lot of acceleration on public sector as well. So overall, very promising. And the fact that we have a region here in Bahrain helps a lot.
So, how do you define you being in technology as a human being? What you have learned talking with people?
That's a very, very good question. I've learned that sometimes the requirements can be very simple, but the solution can be super complicated or even overcomplicated, right? And so, yeah, as I was saying earlier, I learned to be an active listener a lot more than I used to be. Because sometimes in the discussion, like one thing will pass through unnoticed, but definitely can be a key towards a successful implementation or successful problem solving or successful business value. And so in many cases, you hear the customer's pain, but then again, like I said earlier, providing this discussion of, but you could do it this way, blah, 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 blah. That's not necessarily my first answer. I usually, whenever my customers were telling me in public sector, we have this pain point, I would take a little bit of time to study that pain point, right? I would look at maybe similarities in other governments across the world that are already AWS customers and see how did they tackle this problem? How did they understand the situation and fix it, not like band-aid fix, but like long-term fix, right? And eventually, after a couple of days, would come back to the customer, have a discussion, and ask some more questions. And if the questions were answered in the way of my plan A or plan B solution that I had drafted, then I would dare to present my presentation. But usually it would take a couple of meetings to get to the point where in public sector particularly, I would provide a viable solution that is as the customer is expecting. Sometimes the customer states a problem, but the problem is not really there. It's probably somewhere around there. And it makes it difficult. If you want to be precise and to earn your customers' trust, you have to take time to think, take time to digest the information and provide an adequate solution. And sometimes it requires more than one meeting, and that's okay, right?
So where we as a human beings going, in terms of evolution. You are into technology from a long time. You have studied the technology degree in US, and you have been in education, in technology education now, started as a web developer and being a technology trainer, and now working directly with the business leaders and owners, trying to help them use technology solutions. Uh, as a human being, how do you define how this technology is helping humanity, and with the experience that you have in your life as a person who are into 40?
Thank you. So, I mean, it impacts you differently, right? I was discussing not earlier than this morning with my son, the impact of AI and Gen AI, right, and machine learning on the health industry. One of my colleagues in my team, for her graduation project, she built a solution that was detecting cancer, right, breast cancer. And while the solution was not completely autonomous, it was facilitating the job of the doctor. And so it was not replacing the doctor, it was helping the doctor be more efficient and spend more time on other things, like actually curing patients. I think some of these use cases of aided diagnostics or, dare I say, performance enhancement in some areas are super, super valid. I think we're going to see more and more of these. I think autonomy is going to be achieved in some areas, not all of them. And because we still need, the ability that humans have to be creative in our very own ways, right? In things that are possible in this world. Whereas AI currently, or Gen AI currently, has no limits, no boundaries. It has the boundaries that we fix it. And so it's very difficult to make sure that, not to make sure, but it's very difficult to think that they're going to replace humans like tomorrow. I don't think that's going to happen within the next 10 years, maybe 10 to 15 years. But I see that technology is, when done properly, is transforming the life of citizens, right? A good example here, in Bahrain, I believe a similar experience in terms of delay is in Spain. But so in my country, in France, when I want to renew my passport, it takes, on a good day, about 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, maybe 4 to 8 weeks. Let's be realistic. In Bahrain, it takes 2 hours. The whole process, everything is automated, end to end. And so to even push it further, let's say you're going to travel, and usually before you take your plane, you should be at the airport like something like 2 to 3 hours before the plane leaves. So the whole process is only 2 hours, and there's an agency at the airport, which means that you can get your passport at the airport. So cool, right? Within 2 hours. Amazing. In Spain, I think you have to go to the police station to redo your passport, but which makes sense if you lost it, right? It's a 2-in-1 situation. But just that whole example of doing technology right or using technology right is definitely, a great time saver, a lot of value added. And I think rather than replacing humans, I think we should go into helping humans being more efficient, because humans are the ones that have these pain points, not AI, right? AI is there to help. It's a tool. So from the moment that we realize that We can use AI to solve problems and help in, I label this as performance, but help the customer experience to be better. I think we should do it. Not too long ago, I saw this article on how you could take a picture of yourself, like you as you are right now, and go to an online shop and try different clothes on you virtually. That saves you time. That saves you potentially money of buying the right clothes that you want, rather than buying something and then returning it. That whole process. This saves you a lot of time for you and for the company as well. So yeah, I think if it goes in that direction, it's going to help a lot of people. If it goes in the direction of, we want to replace so many people, maybe the future is not so bright. But yeah, I think it should work in that sense, helping individuals like you, me, anyone, being more efficient at what they do and adding a lot more value than we are already.
So the definition of technology is to reduce the human effort and human energy, and to make things faster and in the less time that human has in his lifetime. So he can do other works as well if technology automates things. So do you think the AI is going to replace human beings completely, the work that they are doing, and make them be stable?
Well, if it gives me a salary and I can use that salary to enjoy my life, no problem. No, I'm kidding. No, I think it should not be replacing humans. I think it should be, again, as I said earlier, helping humans be more efficient. Maybe have more free time, right? A very interesting trend, at least here in the Middle East, we're seeing a little bit in Europe, is that 4-day week, right? Having 4 days of work instead of 5, so you can enjoy more of your weekend and spend some quality time with your loved ones. I think that is really awesome. If AI can help for us to spend more time with the family and less time at work, and only focus on the things that matter, that are important at work, while AI helps us do the tasks that are repetitive, that don't add much value, then hell yeah, let's do it, right? But replacing humans, I don't think that's a good thing. There's a popular French saying that says that le travail c'est la santé. Work is health, right? Because whenever you work, you have your routines, right? You get up, you get ready for work, you go to work, you spend some time, you interact with people, with customers, with colleagues. You sometimes deal with problems because life is not, a flat line. It's ups and downs. So you have fantastic performance, maybe problems to solve, and then solve the problems, and blah 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 blah. I think, yeah, if humans are not going to be working and AI replaces work replaces work, then we have to find something else to do rather than just stay home. We have to do other things to be productive, to maintain our health, to maintain our physical and mental health. I'm sure that's not hard to do, right? But still, we have to keep ourselves active. So I really hope that we keep working, we keep on having these meaningful interactions, even like the one we're having right now. If I wasn't working, probably would be unlikely to have this interaction. So I'm very thankful and very grateful for that. And I think that humans should still work, but aided with AI, good idea. Let's save some time.
So I hope you might have worked with companies and businesses which belongs to different industries. So how different it is working for businesses which belong to different industries?
It's super interesting. Again, it keeps the work not being boring. For example, if you're working with always the same thing on a daily basis, if it's repetitive, if there's no value added, then it's boring. Even if value is added, right? at some point you want to learn something else. You want to grow out of your role. You want to evolve, right? I think that's the nature of humans, to be curious and to learn some more and to eventually evolve into a better person, hopefully. For me, again, I handle a good bunch of customers today. I think I work with about 40 customers in UAE, and those are from so many different verticals. I work with customers in fintech, in delivery tech, in health tech, in ed tech, and many, many more. The use cases are different. They're so, so there's so much variety that it's exciting, right? And I would say beyond that, it keeps yourself curious because you have to learn about everything. One of my customers is thinking about adding AI to understand the cosmetic status of one of these, to understand what could be the retail value of the device without any human touch, right? You have a camera, looks at a device that's on a timing belt, and within a few milliseconds, a few seconds, it's able to say the device is worth X from a cosmetic perspective. Then if you plug it in and have a program running to check the actual health of the device itself, then you could complement that value and say, I can take your device and give you X amount of money. And if you buy this new phone from the same brand, I can give you an extra 20%, whatever that the use case may be. But I think this is like, it's very cool. And again, back to what I was saying earlier, it's not replacing humans, it's adding value to what the humans are doing today. One meeting could be about this, the next meeting could be about delivery tech, the next meeting could be about fintech. The fact that all of my use cases are so different makes it exciting. On a daily basis, I think if I have like 3 to 4 meetings with my customers on different topics, that makes my day. I think I'm very very lucky to have this ability to work with many customers in many domains.
So how you are able to adapt to new things, in that fast, in the time that you have, and able to change your mind and shift yourself?
Again, I think I said this earlier, but I'm blocking some of my time on a regular basis. So let's say if I have an 8-hour day, I'm going to block 1 hour. I know that's a lot of time, but it's important, right? If I want to keep being relevant, I have to keep learning. I have to keep diving deep and understanding more and more of the topics that my customers want me to work on, sorry. And so, 1 hour per day is definitely what I set aside. I'm very lucky to be able to do that, but sometimes it's not 1 hour, sometimes it's 0 hour, but the rest of the week it's going to be 1 hour for sure. So setting some time aside, super important. Being organized, extremely important. Prioritizing on a weekly basis is probably the norm, but for myself, I'm reprioritizing my day on a daily basis. If there is an escalation coming in, or if there is a customer that has a blocker on their business, whatever that may be, I'm shifting priorities on a daily basis is also very important. So setting time aside, being organized, and also, it probably doesn't show because I'm not standing up, but since I moved to Bahrain, I've gained about, let's say 15 kilos. Right? That's a lot. 15 kilos is a lot, especially at my age, is a lot. And so one of the things that I started doing this year is to set aside some time to, go out, walk, take some fresh air, get a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and come back after that, right? It's very important to think about you as well during the day so that you can keep being focused during those meetings. And so even if that 30 minutes to 45 minutes of time just being outside seems a lot during the day, it's either I do that and I keep being focused, or I don't do that and I may be tired by the end of the third meeting because of like the information that you're digesting, right? You need to be always relevant with your questions and always have this amount of sleep that keeps you being focused and razor sharp in your interactions. So sleep or fresh air, both of them work together hand in hand, and the fact to set aside some time to learn and be curious. Sometimes the time to go outside is the time to learn and be curious, but that doesn't matter. As long as it's time for me and I'm able to be better at what I do, I'm more than happy to set that aside. And if it's going to be a 10-hour day, it's going to be a 10-hour day. No worries.
What's your responsibility as a senior solutions architect?
So it's pretty simple. We basically, as senior solutions architect for startup, I manage a pool of customers, right? I mentioned earlier, it's about 40 customers. And so on a daily basis, I should be able to answer all of the queries of my customers. So again, 8 hours in a day, 40 customers, you make the calculation. That's not too much time per customer, but again, being organized and shifting priorities on a regular basis, on a daily basis for me, helps me being focused on the right customer, on the right customers, really, in a day. And so helping the customers remove blockers and realize business value is definitely a cool tagline, but it entitles a bunch of things. Again, for maybe half of my customers, I have WhatsApp groups with them. So whenever there's something urgent and email doesn't cut it for them, they send me a WhatsApp and we initiate an ad hoc meeting on Chime. When it's about me reading an article that is relevant to one of my customers, I share it with one of my customers. I've been working with a customer in the travel business. They take care, they have a booking system for airlines. And when Turkish Airlines was down last year in, I believe, I think it's October, something like this. They had a major outage, October or November, either of them. Well, I sent a customer a message, and that was the opportunity for them to talk to that airline company, and eventually landed a POC. So, it's many interactions that I have with my customer my customers rather, to have them realize that, hey, I'm here. I'm in your team. Just ping me if you need me. Send me an email or a WhatsApp. I'm here, or even call me. Right? That works. And even if it's in the middle of the night, I've had a few cases where customers had major issues and they had to wake me up in the middle of the night because they wanted support to respond faster. So this was interesting discussions, but yeah, I think that's the overall responsibility of a startup solutions architect, is to be felt as if he or she was part of the customer's team, like a valuable member of that team, right? And if you're able to reach that kind of trust, that kind of trust with a customer, then you've done probably a good half of the job. The other half is to be efficient with that time when you're interacting when you're working with that customer.
So at last, as a senior solutions architect, what is your observation about my work?
So I've seen a lot of interactions with extremely relevant members of the community. Lots of variety in the people that you have talked to, and I think that gives a good overview of the community, right? I think when you talk about IT, first of all, my perspective is that there's not enough women representation in IT, and the more I look around in different places, like your podcast, or there's another podcast that I follow from a Lebanese guy who's sharing different perspective from members of the community that are, very well represented, then I think that, it gives a better environment to look forward as a new graduate or as a future graduate that want to be working in this industry. That's, I think, number one. Number two, the different topics, the personal experience as well as the professional experience, and the thoughts of where is this all going? Why are we doing things that way? Is definitely going to give more meat to all of these people aspiring to work in this industry. And also, maybe not make the same mistakes as we made, because we don't often talk about our mistakes, right? We talk about our successes, we talk about our experience, but it's not very common to talk about your failures and the learnings that you've had from these failures. So I think overall, if, let's say, I was in this industry and I was trying to understand if my way of feeling was normal or my way of reacting was normal, watching podcasts like yours or similar ones in the industry would definitely give me more strength.
So I did masters in software engineering, also bachelors in computer science and engineering. Right now I'm working as a DevOps engineer for a UK company.
Okay.
So that's my full-time role. Apart from this, I'm interviewing experts like you who are already in the industry, who are already working for different companies and who are from different parts of the world, who are working for different businesses. And not just technology business, also I'm trying to interview police officers, doctors, authors,
Oh,
psychologists. Like I have jumped into IT industry and also tried to interview who belongs to different industries, trying to feel just to as a human being how they are solving problems, how they are looking at things, how they are making decisions, and especially from there, from South America, from China or Japan or European countries, or like from all over the countries, more than 100 countries experts I have interviewed for my podcast in last 3 years. So more than 700 interviews I have done, and still it's going on. Still, I'm doing a lot of interesting people, experienced people, and the great problem-solving ability people like you who are looking at things very simpler and making things faster and being the reason for the development of the company or the country. So with all these experiences, collection of these experiences, me trying to learn from them and trying to project it on my platform and what I'm going to learn, how it's going to be helpful for my career.
I think you're doing definitely the right thing. You're getting so many perspectives from everywhere. You're gonna have an amazing overview of like the work experience across different industries. I think it's fantastic.
Do you write blogs or you share information in different platforms so that I can share with my audience so that they can learn from you?
Unfortunately, I have a blog that I haven't touched since 2017. I'm relaunching that this year because I really want to contribute more and share more information or more things that I do and how do I do it. Right now it's really not in the best place to be shared, but once I update it, I will share it with you so you can share it with your audience.
So I'll share your web links in the description of this video, also in the on my website as well, also on the screen as well. People who finds our video anywhere in the internet can able to see the work that you're doing and can able to learn from you. And it's a great opportunity for me to interview you and you letting me ask few questions and my audience letting knowing how you have experienced things and how you are able to do things and sharing some of your experiences will be extremely valuable. Even one person, changes their thinking and looks at the thing in the way that you're thinking and the way you are solving the problem. If it helps from anywhere on this planet, that will be a great contribution to humanity and also for the world and for their family, for their company or wherever they're working.
Thank you. This is very, very awesome. Thank you so much.
Can I put this video on my YouTube channel with your permission?
Sure. Yeah. Please do.
And also, can I put this audio and video clip on my podcast, website, internet, social media, everywhere with your permission?
Sure. No problem.
So do you have any message to Jeff if he watches this?
Not particularly, but I feel very honored to be in this podcast right after him. So thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, sir. Keep going. Keep inspiring people like this.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Great day.
Bye bye.